What do you see as the biggest misconception schools have when they first try to improve LGBTQ plus inclusion?
Generally, when I get a query from a school, one of the first questions they ask me is, what do we need to do? And actually, I think that's the biggest misconception, is that because we want to make sure we make a difference straight away, we get caught up in actually the things we need to do. And we forget really about the first two steps. And the misconception really is that we should try and change everything today. Well, actually, what the things that we need to do before we even start is actually, first of all, know why we are doing this work. I should be able to go to a TA in your school and they should understand why this work is important. You know, it's not just about the head teacher understanding why this work is important. So that for me is the really important bit that is often missing from this work, is that real understanding of why this work is valued. Because if people don't understand why this work is important, they won't be invested in it.
And if a school wants to quote unquote do better, but doesn't know where to start, what are the first three conversations that need to happen?
I think it's not necessarily what are the conversations, but it's who are the conversations with. And when I go into schools and they very often sort of want to know what to improve, where they need to develop, the question I ask them is, have you talked to your children? So in primary school, you would probably talk to your 5 and 6, ask some questions about what bullying is there in the school. Do you hear homophobic slurs? Do they know what homophobic slurs are? Secondary school, you can have much broader conversations, such as actually how inclusive is the curriculum? Do you feel represented in the curriculum? But actually, it's pointless doing any of this work unless you've spoken to the young people in your school, because they're the ones who are experiencing it and who the change will actually benefit. So that's the first thing I would say, is actually, before you start planning what you're going to do, talk to your young people, talk to your children. And then it's about talking to your community. And in the book, some people are really not sure what to say or what to ask. So what I've done in the back of the book is I put example surveys and questionnaires that you can send to your pupils, your teachers, and the community, because very often, if this is not your area of expertise, you're not sure really what to ask. So that's the second thing, is talk to your community. Where are you? And the reason that that's important is, before you actually start the work, you need to understand where everyone is.
Once we sort of had those conversations and we understand where our communities come from, what position we're in at the moment, how can school leaders audit their current provision, but without it becoming a compliance slash tick box audit?
Yeah, and there's quite a few ways of doing it. In the book, I put some. I don't like the word audit, just because no one likes the word audit, so I call them health checks. But actually, when I started writing it, I did start to write this tick list of, like, have you got this? Have you got this in your policy? This, and it very quickly became the opposite to what my book was going to be about. It became about ticking a box and about virtue signaling, and I thought, oh God, I'm not, practicing what I preach here. And so I changed it to actually, and this is what I do in schools now, is rather than asking a yes or no question, have you got this, it's an open question. Things like, what impact do your policies have? So actually, rather than having a conversation about whether you have something or not, it's about asking, what is the effectiveness of what you've got? Because someone can have the most detailed equalities policy in the world, that doesn't mean it's doing anything. So actually, rather than asking those questions of what do we have and what we don't have, let's actually ask what's happening.
In your experience, what are the essential conditions for building a culture where LGBTQ plus inclusion is possible?
First of all, is understanding of what it is. I start my training with a really bad quiz. I love to go to local charity shops and get the worst prizes I can. And the reason I do that, and I talk about vocabulary, is, one, to make people laugh. I want people to relax. People need to feel like they can have conversations about LGBT inclusion. In fact, all areas of inclusion, whether we're talking about LGBT, race, disability, neurodiversity, mental health, doesn't matter what it is. People need to feel relaxed, they can have open conversations, that they can be honest. So it's about starting with your culture around talking about this area. If people feel uncomfortable talking about it, if people feel that they're going to get embarrassed, if people feel they're worried to get it wrong, then that's what we need to tackle first. And that's why I do my training, first of all. Within the first 20 minutes, we really tackle that. Is actually, it's not about the stuff that I'm telling you, it's about changing your attitude. I want you to laugh. I want you to feel that you can be yourself. I want you to feel like you can be open. And so when you are thinking about when to introduce this work, that's the first thing, is that people can feel like they can have those open conversations, be honest, and not have any comeback at them, not feel like they're going to get into trouble for saying the wrong thing. So that's the first thing. And then